We're going to go now to Kiev. Former president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, joins us now. We've been talking about the power problem at Chernobyl. What can you tell us? What is the latest from on the ground where you are?
First of all, I want to stress once again about non-flying zone. You have a discussion, but right now, in this moment, we have an air alert, and right now, the Russian planes is above me, and right now, Ukrainian anti-aircraft trying to protect Kiev, protect civilian objects, and attacking Russian planes. This is just imagine how to live in this condition. And definitely we need non-flying zone. Definitely everybody should understand that NATO already is involved, and the Ukraine is fighting not just for our own soil or for our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Putin fighting not with Ukraine, Putin fighting with the West. And with that situation, even if it is not possible, even if it is dangerous, but I don't accept and don't understand why, but even if, we just asking, please, could we can to give us the former, the old Soviet fighter jet, MiG-29, because we have a very best pilot, and this pilot already demonstrate that we have more than 50 Russian fighter jets down, more than 85 Russian helicopters down. And this situation is that we definitely make Russia weaker, and we can close the airspace above the nuclear power station, including Chernobyl, including civilian objects, including all the major cities, because nuclear contamination don't have any border. And Article 5 of the Washington Treaty do not protect from the nuclear contamination. We demonstrate what's going on today in Chernobyl. This is complete blackout. The Russian troops go from the Belarusian territory and take all the territory of Chernobyl nuclear power station. And blackout, receiving of the information to the international bodies, including the IAEA for nuclear security, just demonstrate the level of madness which Russia provides here in Ukraine. Yeah. And yesterday, day before yesterday, attack on Zaporizhia station, where is 12 times more powerful than Chernobyl, is again demonstrate extreme irresponsibility. That's why nuclear war can launch even without nuclear Russian missiles. And with that situation, definitely we need, and at the same situation, I want to stress once again the leadership of the United States. I want to thank the strong leadership of the President Biden administration, Congress, and first of all, American people, where more than 60% support non-flying zone and more than 80% of Americans support idea to give Ukraine their fighter jet from Europe.
And as you know, Mr. President, Poland has those MiG-29s and has offered to contribute those to the war effort. I want to ask you specifically about what you're seeing on the ground right there in Kiev this morning. We've seen the dire situation in cities like Mariupol, where there's no humanitarian aid getting in, there's no food, water, or medical supplies. It appears, anyway, that Russia is advancing, however slowly, toward the capital city where you are. How close are they right now, and what is your fear of when they may arrive?
First of all, during this night, Ukrainian troops and brave Ukrainian soldiers do not give one single step for Russian troops to go further to Kiev, despite of the fact that we have a Russian troop right on the border of Kiev. I just returned back from the Irpin, where we provide and helping the civilians to escape from the Russian-controlled territory. And the people just telling me that they have no electricity, no heat. They melt snow to drink the water. They have nothing to eat. They don't have any medicine. This is the real humanitarian catastrophe. And this is in the center of Europe in the 21st century. The elderly people, the children. And I'm proud that only this morning, only team of our battalion using the buses, armored buses from the bank, because it's dangerous to use any other techniques. We withdraw more than 3,500 just this morning. And our soldiers continue this work together with the volunteers, together with the mayor of Irpin, together with the territorial defense fighters. And I'm really proud that these people is saving their lives. But I want to deliver the information. We have a disaster this night in some Ukrainian cities, including Kharkiv and Sumy. Many civilians are killed, including children. But today, the day of 14 of invasion, this is already 2 weeks. Kiev is a key. Kiev is a capital. And despite of the fact that, can you imagine that 7% of Ukrainian population, first of all, children and women, already left Ukraine as a refugee. We here stay in Ukraine, and we don't give up. We don't give any chance to Putin to occupy us. And I think that Ukraine is already surprised the world. Ukraine ruined the plan of Putin for capture us in 48 hours. We Ukrainians demonstrate the absolutely unique unity, and we demonstrate that the world is different since the 24th of February, and we are very much admired the unity of the whole world. But please, every single day, new sanction if Putin do not understand what's going on, not make a ceasefire, not withdraw their troops. And yesterday, we are very much admired the situation on the oil embargo, situation of the expanding the list of the oligarch and many, many other sanctions which the world presented to Putin.
Mr. Poroshenko, Ukraine has surprised the world, and the world is inspired by Ukraine. We have the Atlantic's Anne Applebaum here with us, and she has a question for you. Anne?
Mr. President, we hear that there are Russian saboteurs inside Kiev, people who are looking to create a coup d'etat in the case of a Russian invasion. Can you talk a little bit about how the Territorial Army is dealing with them?
We are on the 24/7. First of all, I'm really happy to see you again, and thank you for your firm position. This is extremely important for us. Point number two, the soldiers and all about Ukraine. This is the hundreds, thousands Ukrainians are enlisted in Territorial Defense Battalion, and we are here in Kiev, 24/7 regime for the protecting the Kiev, and only in our battalion we already lost three soldiers, and that was the attack of this type of group. But subversive activity is high, and we definitely the unity we demonstrate. This is the very easy for us to take them, to deliver it to the secret services, and to present it that we are not give them any chance to destabilize situation in Kiev. This is, I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of my people, and I'm really proud of Kievites, people from Kharkiv, Chernihiv, Sumy, Mariupol, from whole of Ukraine.
Mr. President, with the exception of the no-fly zone, what is your greatest military need right now, today, with the Russians at the edge of the city?
Point number one, anti-aircraft missiles. We have a real lack of these missiles, even Stinger type. Point number two, we need significantly increase the anti-tank missile, including Javelin and low Carl Gustav. They demonstrate the very high efficiency. And that's why we hit it already more than 350 tanks and more than 1,000 unpersonnel carrier. But we spending them. And we need, every single week, we need additional. We need the ammunition. We need, by the way, we need a sanction, which should be devastating. Putin should pay their price. Russian people who supporting the aggression, Russian people who support Putin, Russian people who support killing of Ukraine, torture of Ukraine, killing Ukrainian children, we don't should give up that this is not their headache. This is exactly responsibility, and they should understand that Putin should take out from Ukraine, take their troops, and their solidarity, or maybe solidarity with the whole world. This is the crucial thing, and we need it as things number one.
All right. Former President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, thank you very much for joining us. Yes.
I have another idea, sorry. That would be a great idea if the world leaders in this situation come here in Kiev and demonstrate this type of solidarity. This is the demonstration that we do not give up and the whole world is with us. Please think about that. We are in Kiev and we're waiting for you. Thanks a lot.
The message has been sent. Thank you so much, Mr. President, and we hope to see you again soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.